Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to Christmas once again. That's right, I've just come off the back of reviewing, well, a different beer. This one that looks very, very similar indeed. That was the Fairy Tale of Brew York 2022, a 4.9% Stollen Milk Stout. And now we're here today for its big brother. This, the Nightmare of Brew York 2022 Gingerbread Imperial Milk Stout, a whopping 9.8%. Now, I said in that previous video that I did these two beers last year, or at least the equivalent of these two that they released last year, and to be honest, the lower ABV one last year wasn't very good. What I didn't say though was that the higher ABV version, i.e. the equivalent of this from last year, was fantastic. So I do have high hopes here. However, they absolutely nailed the lower ABV one this year, this beer that I reviewed yesterday, and well, I'm hoping this one has climbed the ranks even further. On a personal level, this one actually appeals more to me, not the high ABV as such, but, well, gingerbread versus Stollen in my mind, I will take gingerbread every single time, no questions asked. But does that make it a good beer? I guess we'll find out. And make sure you stick around to the end of the video to find out which between the two is actually the one to go for. Before we get into it then, here is a quick look at the can. As always, fantastic form from Brew York, the standard kind of description down the middle, Nightmare of Brew York 2022, and continuing their festive theme with the kind of the cartoonish elements that has, well, continued here, but this time with this being the Nightmare edition, there are a few spooky ghouls and spectres about rather than just Christmas festivities. And on the back, as always with Brew York, absolutely heaps of info, which we'll get into a little bit later. Let's get into it. I was just about to say that on the opening of either of these beers, I didn't get a lot of aroma. They were quite tame until you got them properly in the glass and got your nose in there. And then this one hit me. I don't want to call it too soon, but it smelled good. Anyway, in the glass, it is I'm going to assume a jet black beer. Yep, holding it up to the light, absolutely no light bleeding through whatsoever. It's got a nice kind of caramel toffee coloured head on it, which, given the ABV, is somewhat surprising it's still hanging around, though I'm sure it won't last. But yeah, as far as big impy stouts go, it looks like a stunner. So let's get into those aromas. Wow, that smells, it actually smells like milk fudge. Clotted cream fudge even. There is a bit of a hint of the ginger spice in there, not the one from the Spice Girls, you know what I mean, but it smells like it's going to be big, rich, sweet, thick. It's Christmas decadence all day long, and I can't believe how much that just smells like toffee, fudge, you know, that whole high sugar caramelized end of the confectionery spectrum. It's absolutely, well, it smells absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous! Right then, no messing around. I am genuinely excited for this one. So, Merry Christmas. Cheers. That, my friends, is absolute decadence. Now, I did say that the previous iteration of this beer from last year was incredible and by far my favourite. Now, actually, right now, I don't remember what the flavour profile of that beer actually was, but it was very good. I know that this is completely different, and to be honest, I can only think of one beer that I've ever had like this at all. And that beer happens to be right behind me, just here. This is Lincoln Green's Buttermuch. I showed it on another video a few days ago, but basically it's a butterscotch infused ale. That's a relatively session beer. It's well, 5.5%. So, you know, it's not a big hitter like this, but not enough people go down the road of that big luxe, super velvety, whatever you want to call it, fudge, butterscotch, whatever. Because honestly, whilst admittedly it might be a bit much for every day of the year, that is stunning. Now you're probably thinking, Tom, this is meant to be a gingerbread ale, is it? A gingerbread imperial milk stout? And I've not really mentioned ginger all that much at all. I said it was subtle on the nose, and well, whilst it is a bit more present on the taste, it's definitely not what you call overpowering. But I think they've done something here it's a little bit clever. This is basically as sweeter, luxurious, intensive, creamy milk stout. This is a gold top imperial stout here. But what they've done is added a little bit of ginger, I think. I mean, it might be a lot in the actual brew, but taste profile wise, the ginger comes through, and it is there throughout, but it's certainly not intensive, but it lingers. And what happens is it stays there until you start to get a bit of that alcohol burn from the fact that this is a whopping nearly 10% stout, and it fuses together, and that alcohol burn starts to mimic the heat properties of ginger, which, well, it just, I mean, this thing just flows, honestly. 9.8%. That is perverse for 9.8%. I recently reviewed all of the beers in that Vocations, Celebrations inspired range. They started at 6%, ended up at 11 or 12. And, well, I did say they were some of the easiest drinking high ABV beers around. I still stand by that. But this comes in shockingly close. I mean, I'm nearly halfway down the thing. This is dangerous. So with that in mind, let's do a quick top to bottom taste test before I drink all of this too quickly and end up not finishing the video. So initially, super low carbonation, super sweet on the front of the tongue. Second phase is something that I didn't really pick up on too much when tasting it because it gets washed out a bit by all the intensive flavours later on, but it's got this kind of almost ginger nut biscuit vibe that is sweet but has kind of this slightly sharp, slightly savoury edge to it as well. To be honest, it sets up the beer very nicely indeed. And then on the middle of the tongue, that's where you get that big, rich, think gold top, think clotted cream. It's the most decadent milk stout experience with just a bit of caramel, a bit of butterscotch, a bit of fudge. It's all super sweet, super... It's almost like Lux milkshake. Throw your milkshake IPAs in the bin. This is where the real milkshake game is right now, I'm telling you. And then on the swallow, you get a bit of slightly dull, earthy, roasty. Just a tip of the hat to the fact that this is indeed a full and proper stout. And then on the aftertaste, starts off sweet, drifts into that ginger, a bit of spice, all the ginger's right at the back end, and then a bit of alcohol burn comes in, which kind of mimics, as I was saying, that ginger heat. And then you're just left with, well, little bits of everything, to be honest. It's got nice low-key ginger, a bit of luxurious, creamy lactose, and to be honest, the urge to drink quite a lot more. Right then. Let's take a look at the can. On the front of the can then, Brew York Nightmare of Brew York 2022, Gingerbread Imperial Milk Stout at 9.8%. And then on the back, it goes on to say, Nightmare of Brew York 2022 takes a warming ginger spin this year. Rich gingerbread, cinnamon spice, and heaps of creamy vanilla combined for this year's annual Christmas stout. Now, what's interesting is on the previous beer, we picked up the cinnamon, but didn't get any of the others that they listed. And on this one, we didn't really pick up the cinnamon, even though that's the only other spice from ginger in there. But I am doing these back to back, so maybe the other one was so cinnamon heavy I'm not picking it up on this, or maybe it's just a bit of a balancing act but isn't overly noticeable. I'm not quite sure. The malts used in this beer are Pale, Crystal 150, Crystal 400, Flake Barley, Malted Oats, Carafe 3 and Chocolate. Once again, this has the arbitrary Christmas rating, as you can see just there, and unsurprisingly it's 5 out of 5 Christmases. They believe this is low hop, low fruit, quite sweet, quite good mouthfeel, which, yeah, to be fair, we didn't really talk about. The last one was a bit thin. This one isn't. It's pretty much on the nose. It could be better, but it's certainly not bad. It's a little bit bitter, but not very. Yes, absolutely. And it's very, very malty, which it certainly is. There is a heap more info on there if you're interested. The ingredients are water, barley, oats, lactose, maltodextrin, brown sugar, hops, vanilla, and natural flavourings, and yeast. Natural flavourings presumably are like the cinnamon and ginger, but who really knows. But anyway, that is that. Now, I do feel like I say this a lot about Impy Stouts, but I've been drinking this too quickly, and, well, frankly, I am going to go away and savour that last bit because it deserves it, and because, well, I need by night not to completely go to ruin, but that is fantastic. But there are two important questions left to answer. The first one being, is this better than last year's? And obviously it's very difficult to say that for certain. My instinct is that maybe it's not better, but it's pretty much a tie, which maybe does or doesn't help you very much. And then the other question is, do I prefer it to this one? And the answer again is it's a tie, which means this one has definitely come up in the world this year, and the Impy has stayed pretty much very good as it was before. If you want my reasoning for that, well, it's simply this. The lower ABV beer, I think, gives a more Christmassy experience in the terms of the flavours and the spices and everything else, but also retains a bit more base beer personality. It's still quite stouty. It's not intensely stouty, but there's still a bit more there. This one has lost a bit of its core beer quality other than that kind of alcohol burn at the end. However, it is an absolute sensation in terms of, well, a sensation. It's big, it's brash, and, well, it's absolutely delicious. So there you go. They're both fantastic. Just, do you prefer ginger and all things dairy, or do you prefer Stollen? Because that will be the decider. And that is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you will be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.